Breaking. This changes everything. At Windsor Castle yesterday, Donald Trump and King Charles delivered back-to-back speeches that sent shockwaves through British politics. What they said wasn't just diplomatic pleasantries. It was a coordinated political strike that left Prime Minister Keir Starmer looking completely isolated on the world stage. And what I'm about to reveal shows this wasn't accidental. It was planned. If you want to stay ahead of political bombshells like this, hit that subscribe button now because the evidence I've uncovered will blow your mind. Here's what actually happened behind those ancient castle walls and why this moment will be remembered as the day British politics changed forever. While the mainstream media focused on the pomp and ceremony, Trump and King Charles were delivering something far more calculated. A masterclass in political warfare that targeted one man, Britain's increasingly embattled prime minister. The setting itself was deliberate psychological warfare. Windsor Castle isn't just any venue. It's the symbol of British power, continuity, and tradition. When you speak from Windsor, you're not just giving a speech. You're invoking 900 years of royal authority. And that's exactly what King Charles did when he chose to humiliate. Keir Starmer on live television. King Charles opened with what seemed like standard diplomatic language about UK-US relations. But experienced political observers immediately recognized something different. His tone was sharper, his word choice was precise, and his message was unmistakable. In times when Europe faces renewed threats of tyranny, the king declared, his voice carrying across the historic courtyard, Britain's role must be one of unwavering strength, not retreat. We cannot afford leaders who hesitate when history demands courage. That pause after hesitate wasn't accidental. Palace insiders tell me King Charles practiced that speech 17 times, perfecting every emphasis, every pause, every subtle inflection designed to maximize political damage. But Charles was just setting the stage. What came next was pure Trump, unfiltered, brutal, and devastating. Trump stepped to the podium with that familiar swagger, but his opening line caught everyone off guard. Your Majesty, distinguished guests, and the people watching around the world who still believe in strength over weakness. The camera captured Starmer's representatives in the audience. Their faces said everything. They knew what was coming and they were powerless to stop it. The West, Trump continued, his voice rising with each word, cannot fall into the hands of leaders who hesitate, who doubt, who compromise away the very sovereignty that generations died to protect. History punishes weakness, and history is watching right now. The applause was thunderous. But more importantly, the message was crystal clear. This wasn't diplomacy. This was a public execution of Keir. Starmer's credibility broadcast live to the world. What makes this even more devastating is the timing. My sources inside Downing Street confirm that Starmer is facing his worst political crisis since taking office. His approval ratings have collapsed to just 28%, the lowest for any prime minister in modern British history at this stage of their tenure. His own MPs are questioning his leadership in private. WhatsApp groups that are becoming increasingly less private. And now, in his moment of maximum vulnerability, he's being publicly undermined by both the incoming U.S. president and his own king. But here's the part that should terrify Starr's inner circle. This wasn't just about policy differences or diplomatic tensions. This was about something far more dangerous in politics, perception. In one coordinated moment, Trump and King Charles didn't just criticize Starmer's policies. They fundamentally redefined how the world sees British leadership under his government. Think about the visual for a second. Two of the most powerful figures on the planet, standing together in Britain's most prestigious royal residence, projecting strength, unity, and historical gravitas. Meanwhile, Britain's actual prime minister wasn't even invited to respond. The optics couldn't be more politically lethal. The reaction was immediate and merciless. Within 30 minutes of the speech's ending, Starmer HUMILIATED was trending across every major social media platform. Conservative MPs were posting clips with devastating commentary. Nigel Farage called it the most humiliating moment in modern British political history. Even traditionally neutral political commentators described it as an unprecedented constitutional intervention. But the real damage was happening behind closed doors. My sources in Westminster tell me that within hours of the Windsor speeches, at least 12 Labour MPs had contacted party whips expressing serious concerns about Starr's leadership. 3 shadow cabinet members held an emergency conference Call that lasted until 2 a.m. discussing what one participant described as damage, limitation strategies. The international implications hit even harder. European leaders watched Trump and King Charles project unity and strength while openly questioning British leadership reliability. French President Macron's office issued a statement within hours, subtly distancing France from Britain's current government while praising the historical wisdom of the British monarchy. German Chancellor Scholz went further, telling reporters that Europe needs partners who speak with clear, strong voices. The subtext was obvious. Starr's voice was neither clear nor strong. But this story goes much deeper than just bad optics or international embarrassment. What I've uncovered through multiple Palace and White House sources reveals a level of coordination that should terrify anyone in Starmer's position. The planning for this political ambush began 3 weeks ago when Trump's transition team reached out through back channels to test the Palace's appetite for a more direct approach to Britain's current leadership challenges. King Charles, who sources say has grown increasingly frustrated with Starr's wavering positions on defense spending and international commitments, signaled his willingness to participate. What followed was unprecedented in modern constitutional politics. Royal speechwriters worked directly with Trump's communications team to ensure their messages would reinforce each other. Timing was coordinated down to the minute. Even the camera angles were planned to maximize the visual impact of two powerful leaders united in their implicit criticism of a third. Downing Street was completely blindsided. They expected standard ceremonial speeches about historical friendship and shared values. Instead, they got a calculated political assault designed to weaken their position both domestically and internationally. One senior civil servant speaking on condition of anonymity told me, "We've never seen anything like this. The palace and a foreign leader coordinating to undermine a sitting prime minister. It's constitutionally questionable and politically devastating. But the constitutional questions pale beside the immediate political damage." Starmer now faces an impossible strategic situation. He cannot directly criticize King Charles without appearing disrespectful to the crown and alienating monarchist voters who still comprise a significant portion of the British electorate. He cannot ignore Trump without appearing weak internationally, especially with Trump set to become president in just weeks. And he cannot defend himself without acknowledging that both leaders view him as fundamentally inadequate. The political calculus is brutal and getting worse by the hour. Labour MPs are receiving hundreds of emails from constituents asking why their prime minister is being publicly humiliated by foreign leaders and their own king. Local party organizations are reporting emergency meetings to discuss leadership concerns. The party's internal polling, leaked to me by multiple sources, shows Starmer's personal approval ratings dropping by double digits in the 48 hours since Windsor. What makes this crisis unprecedented is how it combines constitutional, international, and domestic political pressures into one overwhelming challenge. Previous prime ministers have faced criticism from foreign leaders or domestic opponents. Some have even faced subtle royal disapproval, but none have simultaneously faced public coordinated criticism from both an incoming U.S. president and their own monarch, broadcast live to a global audience. The ripple effects are already reshaping British politics in ways that will outlast Starr's leadership. Conservative leadership contenders are positioning themselves as the strength alternative to Starr's weakness. Reform UK is using clips from the Windsor speeches and campaign advertisements. Even Liberal Democrats are distancing themselves from Labour's foreign policy positions. But perhaps most damaging of all is what this reveals about Britain's international standing under Starmer's leadership. When the King of England and the President-elect of the United States feel comfortable publicly undermining a British Prime Minister, it sends a clear signal to every other world leader about Britain's current political stability and diplomatic reliability. Chinese state media has already run stories about British political chaos. Russian propaganda outlets are celebrating what they call the collapse of Anglo-American unity under weak labor leadership. Even traditionally friendly nations are quietly reassessing their diplomatic relationships with Britain, waiting to see if Starmer can survive this unprecedented crisis. The economic implications are equally serious. The pound dropped against the dollar within hours of the speeches. International investors are expressing concern about British political stability. 3 major defense contracts worth billions of pounds, are reportedly being reviewed by international partners who question Britain's commitment under current leadership. For Starr personally, this represents a career-defining moment. Every previous challenge he's faced has been either domestic political, opposition, or policy disagreements. This is different. This is his fundamental competence and worthiness as a leader being questioned by the most powerful figures in the Western Alliance, including his own head of state. The timeline ahead looks increasingly bleak. Trump takes office in January with a clearly established view that Starmer is weak and unreliable. King Charles has signaled his deep concerns about current British leadership. Parliament returns next week with Labour MPs facing unprecedented pressure from constituents demanding explanations. Senior Labour figures are already gaming out succession scenarios. While no one is publicly calling for Starr's resignation yet, private conversations are increasingly focused on when, not if, questions about leadership change. The institutional damage extends beyond just Starmer's personal position. The Labour Party's brand as a competent governing alternative has been fundamentally undermined. Their foreign policy credibility is in ruins. Their domestic political narrative of strong, stable government has been shattered by a single, coordinated political strike. What we witnessed at Windsor Castle wasn't just a diplomatic event that went wrong for one politician. It was a masterclass in modern political warfare, executed with precision by two of the world's most powerful figures against a leader they both view as inadequate to the challenges facing the Western Alliance. This wasn't just a bad day for karma. This was a coordinated political execution delivered with royal authority and Trump's trademark ruthlessness. The question isn't whether Starmer can recover from this unprecedented humiliation. The question is whether his leadership, his party's credibility, and Britain's international standing can survive what may be remembered as the most devastating political moment in modern British history. The political establishment just witnessed something they've never seen before: a sitting prime minister publicly destroyed by his own king and America's next president. This is bigger than just British politics. This is about the future of Western leadership itself. What do you think this means for democracy when constitutional monarchs and foreign leaders can coordinate to undermine elected governments? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear every perspective on this unprecedented moment. And if this analysis opened your eyes to what's really happening behind the scenes of international politics, smash that like button and share this everywhere. The mainstream media won't tell you this story, but you just heard the truth.